Today's Intern Whisperer employer tip of the week is microaggressions. What are they? According to Cambridge Dictionary, it is a small act or remark that makes someone feel insulted or treated badly because of their race, their weight, their gender, where they're from, their ethnicity, any of these factors and more, even though the insult may not have been intended. That microaggression can combine with other similar acts or remarks and over time cause emotional harm. So what are some examples of a microaggression? I don't see color. Well, that's ridiculous. We all see color. That's just saying that, you're disregarding what that person's race or ethnicity is. You speak English quite well. You're making an assumption that somebody that looks different when they speak English, they are not American. So those are really good examples of what a microaggression is. And it helps to just stop and really think carefully about what you're saying. Welcome to the Intern Whisperer Show, Marco.
Thank you.
Our show is all about the future of work and innovation. And I know you to be one of those people. You work super hard.
Yeah.
And you are all about innovation.
And fun. Because innovation is fun.
It is fun. That is for sure. So you are the owner, a freelance writer, and also your, I guess, newsletter, we'll call it.
Yeah, I have a news website, a tech news website, and I create content for businesses and taking my kind of journalism background and putting it to use on the other side of things, trying to help businesses tell their story.
That's awesome.
Yep.
I look forward to doing that with you too.
Yep.
It's called Orlando Tech News.
Yeah, the website's called orlandotechnews.com. And it's so I was a tech reporter for a while at the Sentinel, and I decided to take that and create that news site. That's one side of what I do. The other side is, like I said, I stay downtown, and there's some businesses I work with in Orlando to tell their story and craft their story and discover their story and that kind of fun stuff.
That sounds interesting. I know we're going to be digging into that during our show. This is usually how we start the show. I want you to tell us, our listeners, 5 words that you use to describe yourself and why those 5 words.
Okay. We've rehearsed this.
Yes, we did.
And I'm probably going to forget them anyway. But the first thing is definitely family. I think that's, I would probably be ostracized from my Hispanic race if I did not say that, because family is very important to the Hispanic community. But, I do have my family at home in Chicago, which is where I was born and raised. Parents passed, but we try to be as close as we can. But, like everything, sometimes it could be closer. So the family is definitely one of the big words to explain kind of my whole being right now. The other ones are a little more fun, I promise. So the other one is
family can be fun.
I know, but
sometimes they're not fun, but family can be fun. We should just make sure. Some people would push back and say, no, my family is super fun.
No, I like my family, but technology is clearly one. As I was a tech reporter for multiple outlets for about 10 years. Before that, I covered other more newsy, or more like city government type stuff. Yeah, traditional news. Right? Yeah, so technology is another one. Not just because that's what I did for a living, but I do embrace technology. I think that if there's anything new out there, I try to get involved in it early, which is why I got involved with Peach, which is no longer around. But it's like I try to adopt all these new platforms, some of them with varying success, but I do like the technology. I like where we are. I do love tech, and I'm very nerdy when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Who knew that being nerdy would eventually become cool, right?
Right. The nerds are the cool guys, man. I'll tell you what. And right, even now, you look at gaming. Gaming is my third one, which is obviously tech related, but I've been a video game gamer for a very long time, since the mid-80s.
What's your favorite game?
Favorite game changes a lot. Right now I'm doing this game called Horizon Forbidden West, which is a sequel to another one. I'm also
what kind of a game is it? On your phone?
No, it's like a PlayStation 5. Yeah, I'm a console gamer primarily, I don't do a lot of mobile games. I've tried them, but they don't appeal to me. Probably because I'm just used to the grandeur of like these big long open world games, and so I like long games. Like I'll put I think my record is like 150, 160 hours into
Whoa.
one game, which by the way, that is dwarfed by some people. Some people, and that
This
was
is not all in one setting,
of
right?
course no,
Oh
no.
my God, could you imagine?
I can imagine 5 days straight of gaming.
Yeah.
And that was The Witcher 3. So that's definitely one of my favorites. I also like sports games. I'm a sports guy as well. So that but right now, it's been cool because I'm from Orlando, and Orlando has Electronic Arts, which is a big video game company, and it's been awesome to kind of see, my interest from when I was a boy now turn into like combined to what I'm doing now that I'm in my 40s. So those are three, right? We have tech, family, gaming.
Mhm.
I'm
Well, you mentioned sports, and
sports.
that was one of your key words.
Yes. So sports is another one. It's really I grew up. My dad was a big baseball fan, and he introduced us to sports very early on. I can remember one of my first memories of him was me being really sad because my sisters and my mom were leaving Chicago to go to Mexico to go visit, and I wasn't going, so I was sad they were leaving.
Mhm.
So my dad kind of settled me down by taking me to a Cubs game right after they left. So
How old were you?
oh gosh, probably I'm gonna guess it's probably wrong, but probably like a 5 or 6 range, if not
Oh,
younger.
okay.
If not younger. I remember there's a picture of me with like a little Cubs helmet, and it looks like those like little ice cream helmets. But
Mhm.
yeah, I was a little guy.
That makes sense because, when you're like 5 or 6, you're still, as a child,
Mhm.
emotionally attached to that mom figure.
Yeah, yeah, and I'll tell you, and that did not go away even in my 40s.
That's good though.
Yeah, it's great. It's absolutely great. So that was that's and I played baseball in high school, played a little bit of football, but once I was a junior in high school, I'm like, no, I don't want big guys to hit me. So
Mm.
so I stuck with baseball. I played 4 years. So yeah, there's the fourth one. You're gonna have to prompt me for the fifth one because I gave it to you.
Writing.
Writing,
Hello,
of
your
course. Right,
career.
right.
Yeah. I can tell you like all of those other things and they feed into your writing.
Mm.
So to me, it's like it's not unusual to see that as like
Right.
the
Well, I
last
mean,
does not mean the last.
yeah. So I was writing, obviously for my career, but the funny story about how I started writing. This is way back in the late '90s. I was in my early 20s, and I wrote for a blog, just a random blog. This is like in the late '90s, so there weren't a lot of blogs out there, but there was a blog out there that just took freelance submissions that I wrote, and it was okay. I don't have it, but I wish I did, but it's probably really terrible compared to what I can right now. Um, but in my mind, I got laid off from a job um, uh, in manufacturing. At that point, that was like a really bad moment for manufacturing. So I got laid off from a job, and I didn't have a college degree, and so I told myself then, I'm like, I never want to ever be laid off again without a degree. So that's when I went back to school, which was like in my early 20, 24, 25. And at that time, I had written this one blog piece, and I started thinking like what I should do, and I'm like, I like the Chicago Cubs. I want to write for the Cubs. How do I write for the Cubs? So I chose journalism. So it all started with sports. It ended up being like tech news, but yeah. So that's how I got into writing. It was really just I needed a degree, right? Because I didn't go right after high school. But it was yeah. So that's kind of where I almost fell into writing, and I'm glad I did. It's a lot of fun.
So where did you go to college?
So I started. So funny story. The company that laid me off, even before, or I started going back to school. Even though I made my decision. I needed a degree, but they called me back. So the first like couple of years, I was doing a community college in Elgin, Illinois, which was Elgin Community College. Just taking, I worked the night shift then, so I would go to school during the day, go to work at night, rinse and repeat the next day, and then eventually I ran into counselors at Eastern Illinois University. I went to a writing conference, actually a journalism conference, junior college journalism conference, And I noticed most of the speakers, the ones who were teaching the courses and the seminars, were from Eastern Illinois University. So I said, I might as well just transfer there and learn from them directly. So I transferred out there, quit my job, for the other job, to go and just kind of jump into this world and see what happened. Like I didn't have a B plan. Like I didn't have a plan B. I should say this was my plan B. And so like I worked my butt off in class. I lied, not in class, in the newsroom, in the school newsroom. I was really did as I tried my best. I didn't try great in class, to be honest, but yeah. So I went to Eastern Illinois University, go Panthers, and I got my degree there, and that was the smallest school in Illinois with a journalism degree, not a communications degree.
But you said it's a 4-year school or a
Yeah,
2-year?
4-year.
Okay.
So I went to Elgin Community College for about a year and a half, and then ran into the EIU guys, men and women, the professors at the conference. So I transferred right after that to Eastern for about 2.5, 3 years, and that was the smallest school in Illinois that had a daily newspaper. And so like I did the equation in my head. I said, if it's smaller, that means there's less competition for bylines. So I would get a lot more practice. And by the end of my time there, I was the arts editor, sports editor, editor-in-chief, assistant sports editor, campus editor, entertainment editor.
Okay,
So,
but let me ask you,
yeah.
how many people were on this? That sounds like a lot of
Yeah.
roles.
No, not all at once. I mean, like from semester to semester.
Okay.
That's what I mean. So there was, it was an okay staff size wise. We put out a daily. Sometimes depending on like the fluctuations in our staff, it could be like 8 or 16 pages every day.
Wow, that's a size.
Yeah.
A school paper.
Yeah, for a small
every
school
day?
too. Yeah, that was back in like the mid 2000s.
Yeah.
Now that paper is all digital now. So there is that whole. There's been a lot of
to put out a digital paper every day is a lot.
Yeah, no, and it's but that's the thing. It gives you practice, right? So by the time I left there, I knew how to cover anything really, and I even knew how to design because I did some design work some nights too. So just kind of all pitching in where you could.
So you mentioned a couple of other things. At that school, was there a theater program?
Yes, there was a theater program at that school.
So were you covering, because I know you like musicals?
Yeah.
Anything in the theater? Was that
No, not really. So I was the editor of the arts section, the entertainment, and that was more entertainment section.
How did you get the role of editor?
Have to apply. You have to apply.
And who decides if you get it?
The advisor to the paper. It was Joe Gisandi, who's actually used to live in Orlando as well before. A very weird coincidence, but yeah. So I had an interview. Same kind of thing you would think in the professional world.
Yeah. Traditional.
Had an interview. How are you gonna set up your staff? what any changes you have that you would want to make, and that kind of thing. So yeah, and it was I think when I applied, there was like 2 or maybe 3 others that did, and then I applied again later. I didn't get it, so I'm not pretending that everything went the way I wanted it to. But it was great. It was a really good experience out there for a lot of reasons, and even that the editor-in-chief interview process it helped me out.
Well, so I think that if you applied and you were picked by an adult that oversees the program, that must have said a lot of confidence. So arrogance, I would say no, because they saw somebody that was really good at organizing people, maybe managing them, obviously somebody that could provide good feedback. So they made a good choice, right?
Yeah, I mean, like I don't mean to like belittle or like downplay, because I do think that just by the path of my life, I've learned how to deal with people, right? And how to wrangle people, if you will. And I think I see that, or I try to use that in kind of everyday life, trying to like track down a source, right? Or figure out what source to call, and then, be present for whenever that person happens to be available, just to make sure that we get this meeting done, right? So I do feel like a lot of those skills are important to me now. I just didn't know it then, right? Back then it was no big deal. I'm just doing this.
Right.
But the more I look back on it, the more I realized that I was practicing then what I do now in my career, which I think is what you need to do in college.
So you kind of led into our next question, which is your educational background. You covered that and some of your industry, but there's a blank between college to where you are now. So talk about what that journey was like.
It was awesome. It's been awesome. I mean, I think I'm going to say this in journalism kind of saved my life in a sense, in that I had a direction then, right? Before then, I was working at a factory, which not to downplay that at all. But that wasn't what I wanted.
What was it? Textiles?
No, it was metal machining. It was like metal
Like
stamp
cars?
out. No, car parts,
Got it.
computer connectors, little tiny ones that we don't ever see. We would make those for some big clients. So, but that wasn't what I wanted to be, right? And at the time I didn't know what I wanted to be, but I feel again like journalism just kind of like got in my way once, and I fell for it right away. So I mean, yeah. So the career has been great. I started, I want to say 2010 or something like that. So around then, and initially, my first job was as an education reporter in a small town called Galesburg, Illinois. Population about 8,000 or 9,000, I think, at the time. But there were a lot of rural school districts around there, so that was my education beat. And that was good because that was my first professional job. I had an internship before that with the Associated Press, which, if anyone knows, is one of the biggest news organizations in the world. And I was this close to actually getting hired by them, but they just didn't have the budget at the time, or so they told me. I hope they didn't lie to me. 50 years later, 2009, I am an intern, and that happened in Clear Lake, Iowa, which is very, very north of Iowa. And Associated Press, the Iowa bureau, they just covered all of Iowa. So that was one of my first big stories that went like worldwide. I wrote the 50th anniversary story of this real seminal moments in rock and roll history. Yeah, and you could probably find me.
I'm looking for it
I'm trying to
now.
remember because AP sent me everywhere. Pardon me, AP, the wire service went everywhere. So I'm not sure exactly. You'll see like in the India Times and but also like a bunch of papers like in every, because we were a wire service, right?
Oh, here, I see it right now.
Yeah.
It's actually on this page.
So that was me as an intern. I did that as an intern. So
that had to be amazing.
Oh my God, it was spectacular. The coolest thing about it, and this is going to sound so dumb, but I drove from central Iowa to northern Iowa. Like before I wrote the story, okay, once I wrote the story, that was awesome, and all the feedback was great. But before I wrote the story, my first thought was like, wow, they're gonna pay me to drive all these miles. So like the reimbursement, I had never like done a like super long trip, but so I went to the city of Clear Lake. I talked to their mayor. I talked to
looking at the article right
and
now.
I called the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame people to get their thoughts on it. And that whole internship was really cool because I also got a chance to do stories about like farming and like that I never ever thought I would write about, but it was really interesting. Potholes in rural areas, which infrastructure just is not that great in rural areas.
No, it's not.
So yeah, so that was my experience pre-professional. And then I went to Galesburg as an education reporter, and I had done 2 internships with this thing called the Daily Herald.
They pay?
Yes, I so this is what I want to say. I never took an internship that wasn't paid. That's not a bold, how dare you not pay me? It just happened to have paid offers.
Yeah.
I did have a couple offers of like unpaid. I couldn't afford it, to be honest. I mean, remember this was my second life, right? It wasn't like I had this other, career going on, and I can like and more power to people who do, because that's great. That just wasn't me.
Yeah.
So I needed to prioritize internship that paid me, and they paid well. They paid pretty well. At the Associated Press. Other internships paid me well enough, right? I had 2 internships with my hometown Daily Herald, which is great. I had 1 internship with the Northwest Herald, which was my hometown paper from way back in the day. So,
wow.
So I had 4 internships before I became a professional. And so the Daily Herald, where I was there for two summers, that was and if I'm rambling, I apologize, but um, they hired me right after Galesburg. So I was there for a few years covering like local government and
Do people in journalism, I have no idea. And I know I'm talking about a time that's a different time
yeah,
too.
sure.
Are they paid well? Is it considered a good paying job?
No, it's not. I think, and you see a lot of talk about unionization in journalism right now, and a big part of it is that there's for a long time, and I'm going to say things that might get me in trouble, but whatever. For a long time, there was a expectation of work instead of let us pay you for the work. You know what I mean?
Mhm,
Where love of the game type thing,
mhm.
where you love it so much, so
It's like
sorry.
teaching, honestly.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was a teacher. No, they don't ever get paid what they should be
Yeah,
paid.
and it's like, sorry, we don't have raises this year, or only a
Mhm.
limited amount, and even the raises that do not keep up with the cost of living, but you do it because you love it. And I mean, don't get me wrong, there is an element, but at the end of the day, you need to get paid. You need to get right. It's like I think most of the raises I got I received during my career were a result of me moving to a new job.
I think the first time when I met you, it was I think it was a TEDx event.
Okay.
I think, but probably I'm totally wrong because I remember, well, what I remember was I was talking with Dana,
Mm,
Dana Rockamore,
yeah.
and she and I were there. I remember Greg Pollock came up and then you had come up.
Mm.
And it must have been, it couldn't have been a TED event then. I'm going to guess it was probably a starter studio event.
I mean, I would guess it's a meetup of some sort, right?
Yeah,
Because I know when I first got here, there were a lot of those. Like they had just started, from what I understand, they had just started a lot more organization of those kind of meetups and those kinds of events, and
Mhm.
which is good for me because I was trying to get ingrained in the community, right? So it was on me to jump out there and be out there
So
talking to
how'd you
people.
end up in Florida though? Because you're in the middle of the breadbasket of the United
Yeah.
States, right?
So that is also an interesting story, I think.
Yeah.
I had I wanted to get to Chicago to get back home.
Mhm.
And the Chicago Tribune owns the Orlando Sentinel.
Oh yeah, I remember.
So in my mind, let's go down to Orlando. They have a tech position open, and then after a couple of years, see if I can transfer to Chicago to go get close to my family. And that was a route a lot of people did take. I mean, I shouldn't say a lot, but there were a few people who did transfer from Orlando to Chicago, and now they're working for the Tribune. It never got to that for me because I got down here and I mean, a couple of things happened. Number one, I ended up really digging Orlando, right? And as much as I love Chicago, I love that it's what day is it? March 15th, and I'm wearing shorts, right?
Yes.
And it's cold. It's
I
cold
was
as hell.
born in Kansas. I
Right,
lived in
right.
Missouri. I've lived all over. Everywhere was always cold. And this is like, no, I do
Right.
not want to live anywhere else.
I agree. So I mean that's one reason I fell in love with it. I'm also like a experience nerd, right?
Mhm.
Well, like I love the theme parks. I went the first like several months. I made sure I went to every single one at least once just to get the lay of the land type of thing. But I
Mhm.
also like the little Ferris wheel or the Orlando Eye and
Mhm.
like that whole I Drive area. I like Gatorland. So I mean, like I like the experiences. I like um so that kind of helped make my decision as well.
Mhm.
And yeah, I mean that was that was the reason I came down to
You
Orlando.
stayed. So how is journalism different from social media content? Because I think that we've had this other UCF professor come on the show and he teaches journalism.
Right.
I'm not kidding. Every student that was in the communications program at UCF would come and say, oh, you got to have Rick Brewer on the phone. I mean, on your show. You got to have him.
Who?
Rick Brewer. Just a minute. I'm going to make sure I'm saying his name right. So I'm going to go check. But anyway, he was one of the most favorite professors. Brunson, Rick Brunson.
I know Rick. Yeah.
I have his name wrong. Sorry, Rick. Rick Brunson. He is a favorite professor
Right.
at UCF. and I had him on the show, and I understood why. He was so entertaining.
No, I met him. I met him. I think I met him a couple times in the newsroom.
Yeah.
Just passing because he used to work in the Sentinel, I believe.
Right.
I believe. So yeah, the difference between journalism and social media content, I think has to do with intent. You know,
What do you mean?
I think journalism still at its core is informational, is to afflict the comfortable, comfort the afflicted, right? That old school saying. It is about social awareness. It's about community, doing good for the community. Where social media content, I don't like. I don't see a parallel there between journalism and social media content, in the sense that I think social media content is its own animal, and anybody has a megaphone, right? And I think that's good to an extent, but it's also bad sometimes, you know. So yeah, there's similarities there in that they're both informational and they're both, you know, and frankly, when I hear about something that the Cubs did, for example, I'm going to go on social media first. That's just how I am, and I think that's how a lot of people are. But the trick is to not confuse that with thinking that the sources I see on Twitter are as reliable as the sources I see like at a formal news agency. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I answered the question at all, but it's basically, you know, I think there's room for both, right? I feel the worst thing I feel you can do in an age that's so open and accessible is to slow down accessibility. But there's also, you have to be careful and curate your news source very diligently.
So there were some really popular movies, you know, that have been around journalism, and one of them, let's see, when it was all about Watergate, I can't remember the name.
I was
of
done with Robert Redford.
Yes.
All the President's Men.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm going to do a little quick search.
Sure.
Movies on journalism. But they called somebody Deep Throat.
Yeah.
I remember that.
Yeah. That's the guy who's a source.
So they had, let's see, gosh.
All the President's Men is what it was called. It was with Robert Redford and who was that dude? Dustin Hoffman, I think maybe. I might be completely wrong.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Because one of them played one of the journalists for sure. I think you're absolutely right. These are a little bit hard to find here. There's a Zodiac. I never heard of that movie.
Yeah, that was more recent. You're
Kill
probably
the Messenger.
I've never seen that one. So I like that one. I like Network was more of a TV
Frost
news.
Nixon.
Frost Nixon's a good one. Yeah. Yeah.
Almost Famous. That's a
yeah. He was he worked for Rolling Stone, the guy who the story is based on. And he followed like a band for a
well,
tour.
you know some good journalism movies apparently, so that's really good.
Yeah.
Under Fire, Salvador.
Yeah, I don't like. I know a select. Like, if you give me a pop quiz of like obscure journalism movies, I would have no idea what the hell you're talking about.
Yeah. Neither would I.
Right.
I was an English major,
right?
But that doesn't mean English. Just because you're an English literature person, that doesn't mean you know anything about journalism. So that's why I go. I know there's definitions of what journalism is, and
right.
To me, it's more about the making sure that it's tied to legitimate sources.
Yeah.
You have to make sure you've done a fact check, that you've cross fact checked.
So the way I say it is that news consumption today is a more active activity than ever, where you have to be really actively vetting who you're reading, who you're watching, what you're listening to.
So we're going to take a little brief break here just to acknowledge our sponsor, Cat 5 Studios.
The Intern Whisperer is brought to you by Cat 5 Studios, who help you create games and videos for your training and marketing needs that are out of this world. Visit Cat 5 Studios for more information to learn how Cat 5 Studios can help your business. Thank you, Cat 5 Studios.
And we're back to the second half of our show here. This has been a great conversation. We may not make it to the second half of the stuff because I had other questions.
I'm trying not to monopolize it all.
No, it's okay. It's supposed to just, ebb and flow, however. So something that, and you've talked about your favorite news outlets. So you've kept us on track unknowingly.
Right,
so you know. I want to make sure that you have that.
Or was it knowingly?
Maybe, but see, you did not know everything. Well, no, we did, go over everything. So there's little known things that I've learned from working next to you at Orlando Game Space.
Shout out to Orlando Game Space.
Yeah, shout out for Orlando Game Space. We love it there. That you are a big aficionado of musicals. That you, when doing some little research, did stand-up comedy, and obviously we're talking about movies. So why those things? Because I was thinking for sure, you must have done either karaoke, or you did some type of, you were on the stage acting, or you were something that was singing.
So I took improv classes, however, in Orlando. Again, a lot of this stuff. At SAC, yeah. Okay. I've never been on the theater. I've never been a performer. I've never been.
Does your mom like it?
Does she like theater?
Yeah.
Not really. I mean, she's more like, she was more into music.
Because I know you're close to your mom.
Yeah.
I was thinking that maybe you shared mutual interest.
No, I get it. I get that. But no, this came out of, I think, just experiencing it. Less than some tradition that our family had. We never had a tradition for that kind of thing. It just I've always liked music, right? And as a storyteller, I like music that tells a story. And what's that? It's a musical show.
Yeah,
I mean, it's a Broadway musical. They tell stories with music. So like that, those are always the things I gravitated toward. And that's why I like movies as well, right? Like I right now I'm on a weird kick where like every couple months I run into Fiddler on the Roof on streaming, and I'm like, let me watch this, might as well. And it's really cool. So yeah, it didn't come from anywhere. I don't know, like, and as far as, so here's a funny story. I took improv classes at SAC. That's really the only performance I've ever done, right? Because at the end of the class, you're in front of a crowd. But that helped me in my interviewing. Because I think that is something that people don't understand or don't know, that like when you're interviewing somebody, as you know, you have to be able to think on your toes. Like you could have, I remember when I teach, so I teach journalism students every summer, right?
Yeah.
High school journalism students. And one thing I tell them is get your bullet points ready, right? Because that's a nice crutch for young journalists who are trying to learn how to interview, right? But I say be very, very prepared to not even use any of those bullet points. And by bullet points, I mean like have like 5 questions set up that you want to ask your subject. But the trick with really doing good work in interviewing is being able to be flexible and be agile and say, okay, this guy just said something really cool. Let me go on down that route. So the improv classes helped with that because you're more present in the conversation, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever taken improv classes, but the thing,
I went down when Sachs had some, I don't know, I wasn't doing it, but I was in the audience.
Yeah.
And they were talking about how improv is so important to have in your business, I guess, day-to-day business. And so that you could think, like you said, on your feet and all of these things. Do I think I would do it? No, because I'm also terrified of getting up in front on karaoke, and I'm
right.
like, I am a horrible singer, and everybody's going to know it.
Yeah, no, I've gotten more comfortable with that over time,
which is really funny because I have a podcast, right?
Right. I just do this, but on stage.
Yeah.
But that's the whole. I think when you go through certain things, it changes your priorities, and you really understand what the priorities should be. And I think I'm in a very informed period of my life, right? Where I've had tragedy, I've had sadness and all that kind of stuff, and that happens. But when it happens, you start to realize that going on stage is no big deal.
No.
You know what I mean? I mean, when you see this, like the true kind of terror is when something bad happens, right? Yeah. So my confidence is a lot higher. My ability to speak to whomever is a lot better because of those kind of situations I went through. And the truth is, like, having improv in my background now, it's also really cool to tell people.
It is, because some people go, oh wow, you do that,
right.
So when when I saw this picture of you
Yeah.
and it said that you were doing improv, what was your, I guess, topic or theme that you followed?
So I'm trying to remember because the SAC Comedy Lab has their workshops. They're like 8 weeks, 8 to 10 weeks, and at the end of it, they have the show. And one of the last things that we did was we did like a little tower of people, and it would just be like say keep the sentence going, right? Just make
Wait, are you meaning that everybody was like doing some type of cheerleading and everybody was stacking on top of each
No,
other?
no. It's
physically,
like
or-
it's like I'm cross-legged. There's someone on a chair above me, someone standing above them, right? So like
Okay, I
yeah,
gotcha.
that kind of thing. But it was basically let's tell a story together that we don't know what it is.
Yeah.
And like I said, it makes you pay attention to the person in front of you, right? Because
Okay.
you want to not be the one to end the chain, right?
Yeah.
And you hopefully no one ends the chain and you end up but the secret to that, the secret is to understanding that if you mess up, the crowd's gonna laugh anyway,
Yeah.
and they're gonna enjoy that as well. So that's the secret to improv, I think. Not that here I am, expounding or like
Yeah.
being like the expert on improv because I took one freaking class, right? But that was one thing that you learn is that if you mess up, they're gonna laugh because they're
Oh, yeah.
there to laugh. And so it really makes you kind of allows you to get out of your skin and just be
Mhm.
like, just be there, just do it, right? Open mic, I did a stand-up comedy set. Now that is more to your question, I think, like what the
Mhm.
topic was, right?
Yeah.
I wrote my routine. It was about 8-9 minutes. I wrote it in about a few weeks, right? Like over time, just kind of. I had like a little piece of paper with me, and I'm like, oh, this is funny, blah blah blah. And it was really interesting because I always say this, like, I don't know if anybody laughed because I couldn't tell, but I hope at least. But if one person laughed, that was enough for me for that day. And I also lowered the deck, so to speak. I had like 10 of my friends out there like in the back row, and they were rooting me on. So yeah, I don't know, it's been fun. I love comedy. I love making people laugh. I try to be upbeat and snarky without being offensive, right? I don't really want to offend anybody. And I mean my day
Yeah,
to
but
day.
does anybody? I would hope not. I would hope the answer would be no.
Well, some people go for a laugh anyway, right? Some people are
Yeah.
just looking for a laugh, but I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, and I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I think, yeah, you're spot on. I was watching, this is totally unrelated to
Yeah.
like what we're talking. No, it's not totally unrelated. So I was looking for something to watch and it was on, I believe it was on Netflix.
Mhm.
And it was a woman that was a comedian and she talked about mental illness.
Okay.
And I found it so refreshing because she's bipolar. And she was talking about things that would be colorful for sure.
Yeah.
Some things that were sexual, but also about death
Mhm.
and just different aspects. And I went, she is really funny.
Yeah.
So I admire the fact that people can go up there, which is why I had asked you, did you have a theme or some type of a topic that was related to what you were?
It was
Because she's talking about mental health and the fact
she's
that her mother
but hold
died.
on but let me pinpoint it. She's talking about her experience, right? And that's where it comes from. You look at any funny comedian, I feel, if you really break down what they say, and again, I'm not saying I'm some professional, but like if you break down what they say, it's about their personal experience, right? One of the Jerry Seinfeld was huge forever for what?
Yeah.
Little daily observation that he made in his daily life, right?
And
Dave
it's still so
Chappelle.
popular.
Dave
It's
Chappelle.
classic.
Same thing. He had his own experiences and he turned that into a hilarious TV show, right? And now he's doing stand-up comedy again. So when I was writing it, like again, there was just one outing, but it was really cool. When I was writing it, I that's what I tried to do. I tried to just not make up jokes, but tell stories. And I think again, that goes to what I do. I'm a storyteller. I mean, that's what I think. If you had to pinpoint one word that described me, I think it would be storyteller, right? And those I just happen to try to make funny. So
I know when you and I sit next to you, you'll start asking me some questions, and I think I'm more of the just a sounding board for you. to be honest. But you raise always some interesting questions like, well, what about this? And what about this? And I think it's just how you process what that story that you're going to share
Mhm.
in print is going to be.
I think one of the things to me that I think makes me a skilled storyteller, I feel, is I don't just jump on the first story. Like, I can interview somebody
Oh no,
for
I bounce ideas past you. You go, no, that's not really what I'm thinking about,
right.
because you have a plan.
Well, not only that, so like if I'm interviewing somebody, like, and I hear something interesting, that's not necessarily gonna be the story because I know there could be something more interesting coming later,
Mhm.
right? So now it's smart when I hear a nugget that could be a really good focus of a story to dive into it and get as much detail as possible in case that ends up being the nugget. But at the same time, I'm also open to let's keep talking to see what else I can jostle out of your mind, right?
Mhm.
So that's yeah. So there's that element of building. You have to build almost you're internally building a case for a story,
Mhm.
right? Like this story was great, but okay, now we got this story. Now in your mind, you're balancing which one do I. So when you figure that out, it just jumps onto the paper, onto the file.
No, I think you're very thoughtful in how you. I'm not being kind to you.
Yeah, no, I
Sure.
get it.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think you're very thoughtful in how you approach it, and you're mapping it out in your head. And you also want to make sure that you're being very specific about your
Mhm.
what the message is supposed to be. And, you know, we know that you and I both know that
Right.
every word has power.
Mhm.
So we should be very mindful
Yeah.
of the words, right?
You have to be deliberate. Like you have
Yeah.
to there are if I'm not on a time crunch, like I'll read my story 3, 4, 5 times before I hit send.
Oh my God, yes.
And and what I like to do is read from the back to the front
Yes.
so that you get to read each of those sentences and paragraphs independently.
I read out loud
Yeah.
and I read really slowly. How do you like to communicate with others?
Yeah.
Because I know my mind is going a million miles a second. I don't know about you,
Yeah.
but I have to sit here and go, all right, for me to focus, I have to read slowly
Mhm.
and out loud for me to make my mind slow down and pay attention to, is this the right word?
Mm.
Is this
Yeah.
spelled correctly?
Yeah. And I think to take it to another level, is this is there a better word for this right word, right? The
Exactly.
word might be right, but is there a better one?
Mhm.
And I think that when I really buckle down and do that, and again, I don't do it all the time, admittedly, but when I do, like I read the story, I'm like, that was really damn good.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that is. I mean, that's the again, it comes back to listening,
Yes.
right? When you're listening, when you're actively listening with a purpose, and the purpose is I want to find a good story, you know where to say, hold on 1 second. Let's elaborate on that because that could be my lead,
Mhm.
right? And you start asking like, okay, what color was the car? Like how old was, you know what I mean? And that,
Mhm.
all that kind of stuff. And that's I hope I think that would be a really good secret to good storytelling. Like I'm going to teach someone next some class of a little seminar on feature writing, and I think that's part of what I want them to understand is that you have to be actively listening.
So we're gonna switch to the future questions.
Yeah, sure.
And you can pick one.
Okay.
So do you want to talk about the impact that COVID's had on business in the future?
Mhm.
Remote, blended, on-site, flexible work. What do you think it's going to look like for the future?
Okay.
I think you're going to pick this one. Robots, AI, augmented
Yeah,
reality, virtual reality, or some other type of technology. How can it be positive or negatively impacting our industry in the future?
Yes, that's the one.
Okay. So what do you think?
I think
You get to go in any direction.
yeah,
you
no,
want.
absolutely. I think they're tools. I think they're always tools. I mean, they're no, the more AI is embedded in some of these things, the more independent these tools will be, right? But they have to be programmed. I I think they are very powerful systems, very powerful processes and processors, right?
Right.
And A lot of very smart people that are not me are going to hopefully push them toward the right direction toward helping, right? Will there be nefarious? Of course. Will that be an issue? Could be. Like I don't like I'm not, I'm not trying to pretend it's like a Pollyanna future that
I
everything's
should
perfect.
say, did we all see Terminator?
Right.
Probably.
Right.
It's highly likely.
Right. So yeah, so that's the whole but I don't worry. I don't fear it. This is just what's gonna happen. Like me worrying about somebody taking an AI drone, right? Or AI or probably a drone and doing something terrible with it. That doesn't change whether it's gonna happen or not. I just think the technology is there. I'm happy the technology is there. I'm glad that we're talking about artificial intelligence. I'm glad we're talking about sensors. I'm glad we're talking about. I'm glad that Alexa's there in the morning to tell me what time it is. I'm too lazy to find my clock.
Really? You have Alexa that talks to you?
Yeah. I every now and then ask her to tell me a joke, and they're dumb jokes, but I laugh anyway.
Oh, cool.
But so I like this connected future that are in and heading deeper into. And I like the metaverse. I like, all the trappings that come with it. I mean, I think it's just part of where we're going. I think what prepared me for a lot of the next gen stuff is being a gamer, where very early on you learn how to exist in the world, in the world that's not your own, right? You might be in the Mushroom Kingdom with Mario, but that's another world that you're existing in. So I think gamers are going to have a leg up when it comes to this next level.
They're like futurists, honestly, to me. People that are in science fiction, definitely game development, animation, anything in that space, Disney, honestly, too. They're futurists. The content that they put out is part of what shapes our thinking and what we believe.
Yeah. I mean, you look at I'm trying to think of an example, but like you look at one thing I there was a Disney guy who came up and spoke at a seminar once, and he said there are employees right now working on, and this makes sense, what's the most effective way to position the lines that we wait in, right?
Oh, the queue line.
Yeah, what's the most efficient way to do that?
Okay.
That stuff's going to be dispersed to anyone who wants it when they discover the right pattern. And that's a very small level thing here. That's just simulation, basically, right? And, we're talking about digital twins, which is basically a digital version of everything that you've ever been around is going to be created so that we can experiment with different line formations and scenarios, whether it's like bomb attack, right? But you have, Valencia College digital twin, so people know like here's a way to evacuate or whatever, right? With fire drill or something like that, right?
Yeah.
We're really in an age where you can pretty much practice for anything virtually. You don't. Now, yes, you need like back in the day when we used to put our hands over our head as if that's going to fend off a nuclear attack, right?
Yeah.
But so those were the drills. I think a lot of the drills are going to go like more virtual, because all of these, because the stuff we're talking about, AIs and sensors and all that, is getting a lot smarter, and because they're getting smarter, they're going to be a lot more accurate. So I mean, I'm as the kids say, I'm here for it. I love it. I love the evolution of technology.
The ability to transport, like in old Star Trek movies, that's the thing that I don't see it happening. Doesn't mean that it's not.
It will never happen. It will never happen.
I think it absolutely will.
They did something where they transported like an atom from like one spot to like 7 feet away, and I'm like, no.
They didn't do it?
No, they worked. It worked.
Okay, so why would you say it doesn't?
Because the biology of a human body is not gonna put up with it.
Okay, did you say an atom, ATOM? Okay,
Yeah.
so that's one tiny little thing.
Right.
I would be terrified
I-
if they were doing that with anything that's a living being.
Well, I
So
would look it
take
up.
an
'Cause
apple
yeah.
and go, okay, let's transport this apple 7 feet. Okay, does the apple taste like an apple?
That's a good question. That's a good question. I think it would be difficult.
Yeah, right. But
Yeah.
I'm waiting for that to come into existence because we've already seen all of the augmented reality, virtual reality,
Right.
those types of technologies are here. They're actually in play. But the one about moving something to another location, I go, I don't know. I am confident though that is being worked on.
It is.
We just don't know about
Well,
it.
what I'm interested in, because I've seen this actually, it was either camera tricks or it worked, is invisibility cloaks, right?
Oh, that would be so
Like
cool.
there's work being done on that, at least in Japan, at least there was a few years ago. And they showed some, again, like I'm not sure how much was video editing,
Yeah.
how much was it real, but it like reflects like the whatever light's coming at it,
Mhm.
something like that. I'm not a scientist. So by the way, leads me to like one of my favorite sayings that I always say. Like I've been a tech reporter for a long time and I follow technology, but I always say that I'm the dumb guy who writes about smart people. Because if you ask me about like what's the tech news, sure, I can help you with that. But if you ask me how the hell to build a metaverse, I don't
Who
know.
does? I mean,
Right.
that takes a lot of people
Right,
doing that.
right. But what I'm saying is like there was always, I remember there was like even the office, people were like thought like I'd be there for tech support. I'm like, no, I'm not tech support. I'm a tech reporter. I like
Mhm.
tech support again. I cannot fix your computer, but I can write a damn good story about it. So yeah, so that's but yeah, so yeah, I think it's interesting. I think it's exciting, and I think, you know, personally, if any business were to ask me, I'd be like, you better find a way to exist in it, because if you don't, your competitor will.
Oh gosh.
It's just a new world. You can dismiss it all you like, but Blockbuster dismissed a lot of things before they went out of business. So
Rest in peace.
yeah, rest in peace. So
Yeah.
there is that whole element of if you don't, someone else will.
Oh yeah.
So, and again, like that's not even me being like an ardent super fanboy of this new world, right? I'm just saying it's gonna happen.
Mm.
It's gonna happen if you either exist in it or you don't.
Mhm.
And if I'm a business, I'm trying to make sure I'm present in all areas where people can give me money.
That's true.
So
Okay, so best mentoring advice you want to share with our listeners?
best mentoring advice to share with listeners.
No, well, with our listeners.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah. Well, all right.
With our listeners.
Yeah.
Your listeners.
Whatever. It's all good.
So I'm going to say it's very general, and it's going to be really terrible advice, but let me elaborate. Just do, right?
Mhm.
If you have something that you want to try, we are in an age right now where you can try it.
Mhm.
Especially if you happen to be in a student, you happen to be a student,
Mhm.
you are at both a time of your life and a time of human existence where anything you want to try, most things you want to try, is feasible.
Yeah.
At least to see if it works, right? I am very much admire startups because they start something up. They don't know if it's gonna work, but they know it's gonna work, but they don't know if it's gonna work. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Where in their mind's eye, they know this is the thing that's gonna make it for them. But you know, things can happen, but they try it anyway. So I would definitely say that. I mean, that's something that I think is very important. Like if again, like I tell my journalism students, rip the band-aid off, right? If you want to do something, go. If you want to interview a rock star, contact them. Worst thing that happen is no,
Yeah.
right?
And you might get 1,000 no's, but there's going to be one that will tell you, okay, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of times you get some of these ideas that they're terrible ideas until they're good,
Mhm.
right? And they don't change anything but the audience, right? Where if I'm pitching something to an investor, for example, 70 investors can tell me it's crap, and then but the 71st funds my next 10 years.
Mhm.
You know, you just don't know. And that goes back to just do, right? Just go out there and be present. And yeah, I mean, so that's would be my advice. I mean, Like, I mean, when I started my business, I didn't know what the hell was going to happen,
Right.
but I'm glad I did now.
Mm-hmm. So how can people contact you? Do you want to share your website?
Yeah.
Be careful about sharing email because, it does go out there.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely. So, yeah, OrlandoTechNews.com. I'm hoping to relaunch here, depending on when this airs. I think
We're like 4 weeks.
okay. So by then it'll be launched. So OrlandoTechNews.com is one place to check out what I'm up to. But if you want to connect on LinkedIn, just go find me on Marco Santana. I have a lot of inbox messaging that I do with people that just want advice on journalism or even lately it's been starting a business. And because I mean, not that I'm the best expert, but I can help. And if I can't, I know a lot of people.
You do know a lot of people
in Orlando's tech community I won't guarantee it, but I would be very surprised if I couldn't find someone to help you.
Oh yeah.
LinkedIn the website if you'd like, but yeah, that's kind of the places
I
that
assume you've got a contact us page on or an email, some way that people can connect with you there. Sign up for your news list.
We have a newsletter, sign up there. And as far as I do a lot through my personal email address still. I mean, which is not a big deal, but you can find it. You can if you really try, you can track it down.
You can find it.
Right,
That's
right,
for sure.
right.
Yeah.
But I'm very open to chatting about whatever, because I just want to help, and also I want to find people who can help me. I mean, frankly,
yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Because we're built for relationship
Mhm.
in life, and we should be able to help one another. It shouldn't just be a one-way street.
I think there is room, and this is another important message I want to say, as long as I have the platform here. There's room for everyone to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's too many times, especially in the past, I've seen competition get people like in a weird space, but like there's enough business for me to succeed, and for this person to succeed, even in the same sector, doing the same thing I'm doing, because there's a lot of people who need help with storytelling.
Mhm.
So
That is very true. Well, I want to say thank you to our sponsor, Cat5 Studios. Thank you to our production team, our video interns of Chase McDowell, David Ullman, Efren Jueves, and Keisha Perez. Our music is by Sophie Lloyd. Sound effects by Eric Peterson, Matt Miller, Dave Francis, and Miguel Sintra. And if you would like to have your inclusion tip of the week shared on our show, be sure to record it. Be able to send your audio file to info@internpursuit.tech, TECH, and include your name, your job role, and where you work. And we're going to email you our Intern Pursuit game backgrounds or send you a t-shirt.
there you go.
So visit Employers for Change at www.e4c.tech and learn how you can create real diversity and inclusion culture while scaling your people for the future. Marco, this has been awesome.
I appreciate it.
Yep.
I enjoyed
I've been asking, I asked you before.
Yeah.
We were waiting. I'm going to look forward to the day I get Dave Vance on here too.
Yep.
He's been somebody I've been wanting to have also. So I don't always get a lot of journalists or people that are in press and media, and it's always something that people ask for. So I'm really glad that you were a guest.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I had fun. Again, if anyone wants to reach out, you can find me.
Okay. Well, thanks so much.